Kirk's assassination continues. Jimmy Kimmel Live has been pulled off the air indefinitely, which would ostensibly, I believe, include tonight, um, for what reported to be uh, comments. It says here, according to CNBC, that ABC said it was pulling Jimmy Kimmel Live show off the air indefinitely after controversial comments made by its host, that's Jimmy Kimmel, about the slain conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Kirk was killed last week in a shooting while speaking at a Utah university. Nexstar Media Group said earlier that its company owned and partner television stations affiliated with the ABC television network will preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live for the foreseeable future, beginning with tonight's show. And then it goes on to report that ABC on Wednesday night said it was pulling Jimmy Kimmel Live late night show off the air indefinitely after after controversial comments by its host about the slain conservative activist Charlie Kirk. I think more accurately, political influencer. Jimmy Kimmel Live will be preempted indefinitely, an ABC spokesman told NBC News. ABC is a subsidiary of Disney. And goes on to read, the statement came shortly after Nexstar Media Group said its company owned and partnered television stations affiliated with the ABC television network will preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live for the foreseeable future, beginning with tonight's show. Nexstar strongly objects to recent comments made by Mr. Kimmel concerning the killing of Charlie Kirk and will replace the show with other programming in its ABC affiliated markets, Nexstar said. Andrew Alford, the president of Nexstar's broadcasting division, said Mr. Kimmel's comments about the passing of Mr. Kirk are offensive and insensitive at a critical time in our national political discourse, and we do not believe they reflect the spectrum of opinions, views, or values of the local communities in which we are located. Quote, continuing to give Mr. Kimmel a broadcast platform in the communities we serve is simply not in the public interest at the current time, and we have made the difficult decision to preempt his show in an effort to let cooler heads prevail as we move toward the resumption of respectful, constructive dialogue, Alford said. This is breaking news. Please refresh for updates. And now I saw the headline as I happen to have CNN before me. I'm concentrating on a local Oakland story where Phil Tagami has won his case against the city of Oakland. The battle for the Oakland Vulcan oversized terminal is over, but let's switch over here. This is, as you can see, this is CNN. Let's hear it.
To the point of whether there's a legal element here, I think Joe's right. Like the First Amendment says Congress shall make no law, which means you can only enforce the First Amendment against the government. So can Jimmy Kimmel sue? No, he can't sue ABC for making a decision to remove him. That's a private entity. But what Donald Trump is doing repeatedly is he's expanding his executive power in two ways. One, I would say, is precedented. That's the traditional stuff. I have more authority to hire and fire executive branch officials. I don't have to respond to Congress, that kind of thing. He's fighting that out in the court. We've seen that before. What's unprecedented, however, is the way Donald Trump is using official power from the FCC on to go after universities, law firms, and media companies that he disagrees with on policy or on politics. That is new. We've not seen that from any president before.
This is actually cancel culture. I mean, that's what this is. The chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, Brent Carr, added on Benny Johnson's podcast that the broadcasters, including ABC, have a license granted by us at the SEC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. Elsewhere in the interview, Carr attacked Kimmel as talentless and suggested the late-night comedian's comments displayed some sort of, quote, desperate irrelevance. Is that what we want the FCC chairman to be doing?
It's a very slippery slope, and there's a pattern. We keep talking about it like it's not happening, and it just keeps happening. Oh,
folks, I'm gonna put this on freeze. One moment, I want you to see something. This is this happened really 19 hours ago. Conservatives call for Jimmy Kimmel firing over Trump satire after Kirk assassination. Conservative users on X are demanding the firing of Jimmy Kimmel following his September 15th, 2025 monologue. Uh, and and it goes on to read from flies from it kind of tears off here, but there's no direct obvious link. You have to click on it like that. All right. And it then reads that mocked Donald Trump's response to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the 31-year-old founder of Turning Point, who was killed in a shooting September 11th, which was last week. Jim will criticize Trump for pivoting from grief over Kirk's death to boasting about a $200 million White House ballroom renovation, comparing it to a child's mourning, and accusing him of exacerbating political divisions. While some ex-users defended the satire, others called for boycotts and ABC intervention, with the network yet to respond as of September 17th, 2025. So they did respond, essentially. And then it goes on, someone wrote, I hope this ends his career. And time for ABC. So basically, we got from that to ABC did respond. They responded by pulling his show. And here, let's go back to what's being said on CNN.
Over and over again with folks he disagrees with. I'm a Democrat. I'll say what happened to Charlie Kirk is disgusting. We should have a court that if he did it, he should be prosecuted to every extent of the law. We shouldn't have to say that. That's just common sense. But we also should say the First Amendment matters to everybody, whether they agree or they disagree. And I just think that what we're going through right now is unprecedented. It's unseemly. And I think that it's really getting out of hand because it's just happening more and more and more with folks who disagree.
We do have the clip that Jimmy Kimmel said Monday night. Obviously this is not the entire 8 or 9 minute monologue. This is just one clip of it, but this is what he said.
We had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
That is an accurate description, but they have the First Amendment to write what they want to write.
The job of the FCC is not to regulate and police content. It's not, do we like this? Does this make us comfortable or uncomfortable? I don't like anything about what Jimmy.
Folks, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to say that, first of all, I didn't freeze that. That was CNN freezing it. So if you thought it was kind of a weird little deal there, but it just shows you, the overall weirdness of what's going on here. I want to say one thing. First of all, what happened to Charlie Kirk not only was sad, the video shouldn't be shown again and again and again. Additionally, it's not something you joke about anyway. And that's, it's just horrible. There is an old saying remember, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 63. And I remember the time when people said, well, hey, if you said something like that, or you joked about something, they wash your mouth out with soap. And I think regardless of your political place, the simple fact of the matter is we've gone a little too, sometimes what some people would say a lot too far in a place where we act with a certain immaturity, where we can say anything we want to at any time. And, who cares about how someone else feels? Well, we have to care about how other people feel, particularly in situations like that, because it's just so dang horrible, okay? It really is just so dang horrible. And I pray for everybody that's been impacted by this, regardless of political place, because it was just so dastardly evil. Seth Morgan says it's about time, but this man's wife's hatred should have had him removed from his platform long ago. Yeah, I won't disagree with you. There are a lot of people who have been hurt. There are a lot of people who've been triggered in ways that they shouldn't. And I have to say, social media tends to fan a certain level of insecurity. You know what I mean? Not insecurity, I meant immaturity. And people feel like they can say anything they want to say, and then that gets attention and clicks and everything else, which brings money. And so we get an entire media landscape totally transformed by that. All right. Where can I find some info on this story? Hey, Dennis, this is all new. I'm giving you more of it as it unfolds. let me go back to CNN. You hear of them and less of me, right? I'm just the messenger. I'm bringing it all to you as it happens. This is unfolding here. Okay.
Said, Frank, I agree with Joe. I find his comments reprehensible, but it's not the FCC's job to say, do we like this or do we not? And the FCC, of course, is a government actor. And I'm thinking sort of off the top of my head here, but if ABC wanted to fight this, clearly they don't because they've made the decision to dispatch or suspend Jimmy Kimmel. If they wanted to fight this, they might have a basis to go into court the same way that law firms have gone into court, and Harvard, among other universities, have gone into court and said, this is an overextension of government power, of executive power. This violates the First Amendment. And again, they can bring that because the FCC is a government actor, but Jimmy Kimmel cannot do anything against ABC because they're private.
One other thing that the FCC commissioner Brendan Carr did in that interview with Benny Johnson, who, by the way, has said plenty of things that a lot of people find objectionable, is he suggested actually the exact course of action that happened. He said what could happen is local affiliates could complain to ABC about the content, and then those local affiliates could say they're going to refuse to air Jimmy Kimmel Live. And that's actually what happened. Nexstar, which owns a bunch of ABC affiliates, they were the first ones to say in a statement, and Variety broke this news, we're going to preempt the show. Is there any coming back from this?
Freezing that real quick, folks. This is Jimmy Kimmel's Twitter account. There has been no new tweet, no response as of 7:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In fact, the last tweet he made here was November 2024. So he's not even using X or Twitter at this point. The question is he using Instagram? And I know he's using Instagram. I will see if he put anything on Instagram momentarily. Let's go back to the CNN broadcast right now here.
Do you think?
Well, I don't think ABC is canceling him because they're afraid of the FCC. I think they're afraid that they're going to lose whatever audience he has left because that's such an offensive thing he said. As far as, there's so much media alternatives at this point. So I think the FCC's, the range of authority they have is less and less because there's so many other outlets to reach out to. So if Kimmel wants to reappear somewhere else, he will. I think the point is, though, that, again, when you alienate a part of the population who at some point just stops watching, then you have no incentive to keep whatever left of that audience as there is. And then, it just kind of goes down the drain.
Let me ask you a question, Joe. Do you think that we are holding late-night comedians to a standard for speech and decency that we do not hold our elected leaders, including the President of the United States, to?
I guess who's we? I mean, you're talking about audience watchers or citizens?
The American people, the government of the United States as of now. Are we demanding that our late night comedians behave in a more upright and more conciliatory and sensitive way than we demand that our president act?
Well, I think it's not so much demanding. It's if you don't like what Kimmel's saying, you turn it off. If you don't like what Trump is doing, you don't vote for him. So I think that's the power you have. And so I don't know that there's any kind of...
Yeah, but we're not turning off Jimmy Kimmel. There's being pressure applied to have him canceled.
That's ABC's choice, though. They don't have to cancel him.
If they feel the heat, that's when they do it. Like everybody who gets in the line of fire of this administration feels the heat. They're like, whoa, we don't want any heat here. This is the big boys, and they all back down.
Okay, folks, I'm at Jimmy Kimmel. This is his his X account. His last and most recent account was 19 hours ago here, where he was making fun of the president here in England, and also actually talking about him in this case. I'm not going to play this for copyright reasons because of the nature of the platform itself here. It has nothing to do with what's going on right now. It's just a matter of the platform and what I can and cannot do with respect to the copyright. Now, if it's on CNN, different story. It's an X. Okay. Now let's go back to CNN, and I will put here right here, and and then let's go here.
Actually, look, we've seen law firms back down. Many law firms settled. I was surprised. I was disappointed by that. We've seen many colleges, including Columbia, settle, right? And it's, I think, noteworthy and alarming to note how many free actors in the private sector have decided to give in to settle rather than to stand up and fight. There are some counterexamples. There are law firms that have fought. Harvard and other universities have fought, but that's a decision that every private entity has to make for itself based on the bottom line.
There's also a plethora of district court judges all across the country that are more than happy, though, to fight again, to push back against Trump administration acts.
I don't know, they've lost most of those lawsuits, though, the Trump administration.
Deservedly.
All right, thanks one and all. Appreciate it. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, and on the TikTok at Jake Tapper. You can follow the show on X at The Lead CNN. If you ever miss an episode of The Lead, you can listen to the show once you get your podcast. Look for much more on the breaking news front. It just never stops breaking.
Nope.
Aaron Burnett up front starts now.
Yeah. So we'll stick with Aaron Burnett, folks.
This is just breaking. We have the very latest, really shocking news just breaking here tonight. As the FBI director today was accused of an Epstein cover-up, Kash Patel repeatedly testifying he can't release the documents. The courts, though, have said otherwise, as Trump tonight is facing protests and questions about Epstein, even on his trip to London. And tonight, a sheriff's warning to Tyler Robinson's romantic partner, the sheriff telling friends and family of Charlie Kirk's alleged killer to, quote, lay low. That sheriff is my guest. Let's go out front. And good evening, I'm Aaron Burnett, and out front tonight we do begin with this very late breaking news. Jimmy Kimmel's late night talk show has been pulled off the air indefinitely. Pulled off the air indefinitely. ABC is just making this announcement about Jimmy Kimmel Live, just hours after the Trump-aligned chairman of the FCC went on a podcast threatening to take action against ABC and its parent, Disney, about Jimmy Kimmel. Specifically, over these comments by Jimmy Kimmel 2 nights ago. What Jimmy Kimmel did, I'm going to play it for you, but I'll tell you what he did. He suggested that the suspected killer of Charlie Kirk might have been a pro-Trump Republican.
Well, actually, I'm going to freeze that right here and play it myself. But the reason is that the YouTube algorithm is kind of being weird about it. So I'm going to play that through so we're not taken off and then tell you exactly what happened according to the New York Times. What they were complaining about is that Jimmy Kimmel specifically made fun of President Trump and how he pivoted from, and I saw that, okay, and I saw what was happening, how he pivoted from a discussion with the Fox News broadcasters of the Charlie Kirk killing. I hate to use that term, but that's what happened. It's because it's just so sad. That's why I hate to use the term. It just really makes you cry. But at any rate, my point is that, and it's still unbelievable, but my point is that Kimmel then went to make fun of Trump talking about his renovation of the White House. And that was primarily what was going on. And so it's shocking because you would think, okay, it had to be something else, right? And I think what's going on here with this fast approaching news is if you didn't see the clip or Kimmel talk, you're probably going to report on something else that he commented on, right? I'm reading this. Some people say Kimmel is late, and Jimmy Kimmel has there is a cancel culture, and I think given the nature of our society, you can't just pull back on our ability to speak to each other. And this isn't woke either. If you think about it, someone says, go woke, get broke. This isn't wokeness. I mean, being woke is prizing free speech, not, yanking somebody off the air because they said it. And to be woke in its classic sense means you prize free and fair elections. That's really what it is if you actually start to study it. But what's going on in this world where we have people who really don't, everything is used to say, I want to be in this group or that. It has nothing to do with the definition at all. And so now it's like, hey, what do I want it to mean? Oh, I want it to mean this thing so I can, only be aligned with that group over there, or this group be thought of that one, as opposed to, hey, look, here's what I think, right? The bottom line is we all have an opinion and we should share that opinion. I remember in the early days of YouTube, Renato had a thing where he would stop. And what he would do is he removed all of the blocks he had on speech. and he let you say write anything on there or come and address. He would address it, okay, and that was really a cool thing for him. And we had YouTube meetups and everything else. That was folks. That was 19 years ago, and I go back that far in Web 2.0 history. Okay, today it's to where everybody has some kind of way of getting out what they want to say about something. But what's going on is that there's a certain ethic there that says, I can say something really immature or insensitive, and I can say something as mean as I possibly want to, and that's okay. And we've gotten to this point where people are really, they get triggered over it. It could be about anything. It doesn't have to be about politics. It could be about, for example, I got a death threat call regarding the fact that I said the Oakland should move to Las Vegas because the city of Oakland wasn't handling it right from a government process standpoint, and they weren't. This guy got mad at me. I mean, that's where we are today in our society, folks. Okay, and if you're out there saying, "Gee, that makes absolutely sense," you're right. It doesn't. All right, let's go now. Now they've got that out of the way. Let's go back to Aaron Burnett here on CNN. Bam, there.
Going back and forth at each other for years. So again, not a secret that he is not, at the top of President Trump's favorite list for sure.
Well, no, and President Trump has obviously gotten what the administration wants in this case. As we said, it's an indefinite suspension. Elizabeth, please stay with me, and I know you're literally, texting with your sources as we speak. So please stay with us as you're doing that. I want to bring in Brian Stelter and Bill Carter.
Never heard of it. No.
Long time
Nope. Never heard of it.
career
Nope.
analyst, so many decades at the New
No.
York Times. Okay, so let me
it's
just ask you, Brian, what more you're learning about this just in these minutes. I mean, it truly dropped as, I think, a shock to anybody who heard it, even if they knew that Brendan Carr, the pro-Trump chief of the FCC, had made the comments he made on that podcast. I don't think there's anybody who literally thought within hours Jimmy Kimmel would be gone.
Right, absolutely right. In fact, this was very sudden this afternoon after Carr spoke out on that far-right podcast. Then some stations that are owned by other companies but affiliated with ABC started to complain to ABC. We know one of them, Nexstar, which has about 24 stations with the ABC logo and all the ABC programming. Nexstar publicly announced that they were going to drop Kimmel's show indefinitely. Within a matter of minutes, we heard from Disney that the show was being pulled altogether. That suggests to me that other station owners were probably also getting scared. Other station owners were probably also coming up with backup plans not to air Kimmel's show. But even though we're talking about comedy, this is so serious, Aaron. Yep. America is a less free place if late-night comedians cannot do and say what they want. Of course, they can be tuned out. People can change the channel. That's how we vote. That's how we have our say in America. But this really does have a chilling effect across the American media. And it's not just me saying it. We've heard from the group FIRE in the past few minutes, the free speech group FIRE, saying, quote, the government pressured ABC and ABC caved. Quote, we cannot be a country where late night talk show hosts serve at the pleasure of the president, but until institutions grow a backbone and learn to resist government pressure, that is the country we are. And just one more note, Aaron. I've heard from Brendan Carr in the past few minutes. He's very pleased about Nexstar deciding to preempt the show. He has not officially reacted to ABC's decision yet. But when I told him about ABC's decision to go ahead and basically, this is a cancellation unless the show ever comes back, he did send me a GIF. He sent me a celebratory meme as his reaction, Aaron.
I mean, Bill, let me just ask you about where we are in this moment, okay? Because fear has a domino effect. You have a late night comedian who his first reaction to the horrific assassination of Charlie Kirk, as Elizabeth just laid out, was to say, my wife and I's thoughts go out to that family. What a horrible thing, right? Made very clear where he stood. By the way, hardcore free speech advocates would say that isn't even a caveat that is needed in this conversation, okay? But I'm just making the point that he had taken that stance. He comes out the other night and he merely, as a late night comedian could do, said, and by the way, no one knows the full facts about this assassin, and says, well, it could be this, and that's what he says. Could be MAGA. And to that, he gets this response from the FCC chair. I want to play a little bit more of you, Bill, a little bit more of Brendan Carr here from the FCC for you. Here he is.
They have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct and take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
Again, Bill, there's no fig leaf there. You can do this the easy way or the hard way. I don't think it gets any more painfully and disgustingly obvious than that.
Does that not sound like a mob thing to you? That sounds like a mob thing to me.
Yes.
It's a definite open threat. And the FCC is basically saying, we have control of broadcast licenses, and we will use that against you if you don't play ball with us. And it's really a serious moment. This is a serious moment. This is ABC basically saying, we can't stand up to this. We have to back away. We can't stand up to this. And every time this happens, it means the next thing is in the offing. They're not going to back off. This means you can't say anything without us coming after you. I think they're promising that. They're basically sending the message out there, it's going to be this way. If you don't play ball with us, if you criticize us, if you use your airwaves in ways we don't like, we have your license and we can take it away. It's really a dangerous, dangerous time.
Elizabeth, it also comes in the context of, I mentioned Colbert, right? And now we're talking about Kimmel. But you have Trump talking about lawsuits that settled in his favor by news organizations. Yesterday, making it clear not only does he add all of that into this, his victories, but also that he wants to go after others. Here was the exchange as he's on his way to England that he had with ABC News, long time, top of the top ABC News White House correspondent Jonathan Karl. I'll play it.
You'll probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. You have a lot of hate in your heart. Maybe they'll come after ABC.
He was talking about free speech there. Elizabeth, where does this all lead?
Yeah.
Right? This is...
He's doing a good job
we're
today.
in a domino situation, but this one is seismic.
This is seismic, and if you had told me a few weeks ago that Stephen Colbert's show was no longer going to exist, I would have said you're crazy. If you had told me yesterday or an hour ago that Jimmy Kimmel Live was going to be pulled off the air indefinitely, I would have said, in no world is that going to happen. So we are really in unprecedented times, and trust me, the people at ABC did not want to pull Jimmy Kimmel Live. He is a favorite of that company. As I said, he is the face of that company. He doesn't just host his late night show, he also hosts and produces a series of other projects for them. So these really are unprecedented times, and I have reached out, by the way, to Kimmel's personal representative.
Folks, I'm freezing this for one reminder. Keep in mind that this also takes more focus off the Epstein files. Just letting you know. Back to the broadcast.
I have not heard back anything yet. I have also asked some additional questions. Of course, in that initial statement that I obtained, it said that it has been pulled indefinitely. That's not a cancellation. But to Brian and Bill's point, it's almost hard to see a path forward. It's hard to see a world in which President Trump says, sure, I would love for Jimmy Kimmel to come back on the air. I love the guy. They hate each other's guts. Let's be honest about that. So I have asked, is this a cancellation? Are there any plans? Do you know how much longer or how long it will be pulled off the air? So all these questions are unanswered now. I would imagine that the executives over at Disney and ABC are asking the same questions as us, and that their minds are scrambled as well right now.
Brian, in terms of where we are at this very moment, you know the general or the very specific taping schedule of Jimmy Kimmel, right? And when they tape, when they get ready. So we're at 7:13 Eastern time. What would he normally be doing tonight? What are they doing? What is he doing?
Right, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, as the true late night scholar, normally Kimmel's show would be about to be taped, is getting ready, he's preparing right now, and maybe that's why we haven't heard from him yet. Like I said, this escalated very quickly, really just in the last hour or so, so it is possible the audience was already starting to be loaded in and things like that.
Come on.
Yes.
A little more
That
time.
chair just a little bit closer.
Aaron,
Thank you.
it occurs to me.
Go ahead.
I'm not interested because are they sending everyone home? You know, what's happening on the scene? You know, the show would have been taken within the next hour, so people would be there. Yes, this is very abrupt, very abrupt.
And this is all about jawboning. It's all about public pressure. You know, actually revoking FCC licenses is extremely difficult. I wrote about this last fall when candidate Donald Trump was talking on the campaign trail about wanting to punish stations by taking away their licenses. And throughout the history of the country, ever since we've had broadcast television, license revocations are extraordinarily rare. Once you've got one, you're pretty much guaranteed to keep it. So the threat is not that the FCC is actually going to take away a license. It's about the public noise. It's about the shame and embarrassment. It's about Brendan Carr going on podcasts and embarrassing ABC. You know, there's a term for this. It's jawboning, and that's what we've seen happen today in a very real way. Trump vowed retribution on the campaign trail, and he's getting it. He's getting it against entertainers and comedians. But Aaron, for every reaction, there is a counter-reaction. Stephen Colbert has already been joking about getting hired somewhere else. Those jokes mask a very real intention, right? Where will he get picked up instead? If Kimmel parts ways with ABC, and again, Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Kimmel's contract is coming due soon, Kimmel will probably end up somewhere else. And if big, old-fashioned, mainstream media companies don't have the guts to employ these people, then we're going to see startups start to flourish. You know, we talk about the Substack era, with people launching newsletters and live streams on YouTube. We're going to see more of that if these old-fashioned media companies can't stand a little bit of pressure from the president.
Yeah, well, I mean, but it is stunning to see such a thing happen and to show this world that we're living in. Van Jones is joining me now on the phone. So Van, you know, all of a sudden you see this headline, Jimmy Kimmel put on hold indefinitely by ABC News after the head of the FCC goes on a far-right podcast and says we can do this the easy way or the hard way. And do you think in your mind it's possible this might not be real?
I don't know what's real or what's not real. I do know that a news organization anywhere in the world has a responsibility to stand up to government bullying, to government censorship. That is what we do. That is why we exist. Not to knuckle under, not to do what we're told, but to stand up and to say, listen, if you want to pull these licenses, then we're going to go to court. It will be in the court of public opinion, but you don't get to go on a podcast and set policy for American media, for an American media institution that's been around a lot longer than me, you, or Donald Trump. This is a red line that has been crossed for our industry, for the First Amendment, for the right of people to speak. There was nothing hateful about what was said, and even hateful speech is protected. This is not acceptable. If you are going to run a media organization that's called a news organization, you have to stand up to government bullying anywhere in the world, and certainly in the United States.
Well, the job should be to speak truth to power, even when there are people who don't like the word truth anymore. All right, Van, stay with us. I want to bring in the Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia because he is the ranking member on the House Oversight Committee. And Congressman, I appreciate your time. You know, we had planned to talk about something very different and obviously very important tonight in the Epstein files. This news, though, has just broken, and it is most important at this very moment. May I just ask you, what's your response when you hear what ABC has done after the FCC chair said we could do this the easy way or the hard way?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we are all just learning about what just happened, not having all the information, but what I'm hearing is pretty outrageous. Look, we can all, of course, agree that political violence is horrific. What happened to Charlie Kirk is horrific. But the idea that someone is going to get pulled off a news program, off a channel that's supposed to be independent, and that ABC is making this decision because of possible political pressure through the president is both stunning and outrageous. And so I think that as information comes out, we've got to understand what exactly happened, who made these decisions. There's a lot of questions right now. I think the foundation of a democracy is also having a strong, independent news organizations and a strong independent media. And it's a huge important part of democracy. So I'm honestly pretty stunned. I mean, what happened with Stephen Colbert, what's happening right now with Jimmy Kimmel, this cannot be a pattern in the United States. So we've got to stand up and allow the media to be independent.
Well, it is unfortunately a pattern now. We're gonna queue up again in just a second what Brendan Carr, the FCC chair, said on that that right-wing podcast earlier today. But first, just because you made the point, Congressman, that what Jimmy Kimmel said was not celebratory or hate speech, which it wasn't. And again, I will make the point that there are some, including people like Ted Cruz, who came out yesterday and said even that speech is protected in the United States. So I'm not trying to put up that would be some sort of an excuse. I am just pointing out that's not what he said. I want to play again for anyone just joining to understand what it was that Jimmy Kimmel said that prompted the FCC chair to say we could do this the easy or the hard way. Here's Jimmy Kimmel.
We hit some new lows over.
Okay, I'm gonna play. Here's folks. I'm doing this because of the way not only the way the YouTube algorithm has handled it, but also I've got the Nexstar statement right here. This is Nexstar made the decision. It reads as follows. Nexstar Media Group Incorporated, NASDAQ, today announced that the company's owned and partner television stations affiliated with the ABC television network would preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live for the foreseeable future, beginning with tonight's show. Nexstar strongly objects to recent comments made by Mr. Kimmel concerning the killing of Charlie Kirk and will replace the show with other programming in its ABC-affiliated markets. Mr. Kimmel's comments about the death of Mr. Kirk are offensive and insensitive at a critical time in our national political discourse, and we do not believe they reflect the spectrum of opinions, views, or values of the local communities in which we are located, said Andrew Alford, president of Nexstar's broadcasting division. Continuing to give Mr. Kimmel a broadcast platform in the communities we serve is simply not in the public interest at the current time, and we have made the difficult decision to preempt his show in an effort to let cooler heads prevail as we move forward to the resumption of respectful, constructive dialogue. Now, let's go back, having said that, and see where this, okay, here it is. Right here.
Weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Now, Congressman, I'm just going to take a step back and say, after January 6th, you had, many on the right saying, no, it's an act, it's Antifa, right? These speculations about who's to blame for what, and it's not what it looks like, they are everywhere on every horrible act, okay? And Jimmy Kimmel just came out and put that in his monologue. I think anybody would say that's obviously not hate speech, but obviously people on the right, Brendan Carr, didn't like it. When you see that Jimmy Kimmel is gone because of that, does that even hit harder home to you?
Look, I'm honestly, this is very concerning. I think, first, Jimmy Kimmel is a late night host. He's a comedian. We have the First Amendment in this country. Folks have the right to say what's on their minds, and certainly in a monologue on a late night show. And I think anyone that's going to listen and watch that clip, I mean, it's pretty clear that this is a direct attack on free speech. And it's one thing for all of us to unite and talk about political violence and denouncing political violence. It's another now to target people who you may not agree their opinion with, or that you don't like what they have to say. What's happening right now in these attacks on universities, attacks on people in their job because we don't like what they say and we're policing every word. This is an extreme example now, and another direct attack on the media. And I think one thing is important to be said at this moment. Yeah. Donald Trump has been, in a systematic way, attacking the media, causing harm impacted the way people believe and interact with news gathering, what people are saying, and he continues and continues to tear media and media institutions down. That overall will harm our country. It's going to harm our world. People need to be able to trust the media, and this ABC's actions here at this moment, I think we have a lot of questions about what happened.
So,
folks, I'm going to freeze that for one moment because I want to show you the Nexstar website, because you're probably wondering who the hell is Nexstar, right? All right, here's Nexstar. This is Nexstar. They just purchased Tegna, which owns a number of stations around the country, particularly in the South and the East, and they are partially owned by BlackRock. Yeah, the same BlackRock that is a hedge fund organization that invests in real estate, water, your uncle's plot. I'm not kidding you. Housing, all over the place. At any rate, Nexstar now owns Tegna, and undoubtedly bought it from BlackRock, or BlackRock probably owns part of Nexstar. At any rate, keep that in mind. Nexstar Media Group is a leading diversified media company that produces and distributes engaging and local national news, sports, and entertainment content across its television and digital platforms, including more than 316,000 hours of programming produced annually by its business units. Nexstar owns America's largest local broadcasting group, comprised of top network affiliates with more than 200 owned or partner stations in 116 markets, reaching 220 million people. All right. And that's at a glance. Okay. And so they have a history of growth, because they say a commitment to local, a dedication to digital, but they are huge. Okay. And here it is. This is the full press release that I read to you. Nexstar ABC affiliates to preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live indefinitely beginning tonight, September 17, 2025. Company objects to talk show host comments on killing of Charlie Kirk. So that's where it is right here. This is Nexstar asserting its considerable power over 220 million eyeballs, including yours and mine, to determine how we talk to each other and how we think about this moving forward. Rightly or wrongly, that's what they're doing now. The question is, who owns Nexstar? Who are the key people that may be connected with President Trump? I'll get to that in a second, but let's go right back to CNN. And I want to thank everybody watching. We have 506 people watching right now. We're at topping 696 per second right here. Let's continue.
is there anything Congress can do about it? The FCC chair goes out on a podcast. He says, do it or else. It gets done. Is there anything you can do? You're the top Democrat on the Oversight Committee.
Look, I will tell you this. I have a lot of questions, and I won't be the only one. I think there's no question that there are going to be some conversations in the Congress very quickly about this and this pattern that continues on from the president. And you cannot have the FCC making and pushing these political decisions, let alone on a podcast, on a podcast that you're sharing an idea with another right-wing commentator, and then all of a sudden you're implementing this, which is a huge impact. I mean, there are, as you know, millions of people watch Jimmy Kimmel, know Jimmy Kimmel, interact with what's happening every night, and to somehow now pull the show because we didn't like his opinion, not because he said something that was hateful or that somehow encouraged political violence. I think this is a very concerning night for American media and democracy. We've got to watch this very carefully.
Yes, and I appreciate your time, Congressman. Thank you very much. An important distinction you're drawing, again, between what would have been a hateful thing to say and just speculation, his opinion. Again, as I pointed out, Ted Cruz, your colleague Don Bacon, all came out and said even hate speech in their view would be protected, right? It was a bipartisan protection. Again, that's not what this was. This is just pure opinion, but I want to make the point. Thank you so much, Congressman. I appreciate your time. I want to go straight now to Ana Gomez because she is a commissioner of the Federal Communications Commission who was appointed by President Biden. And Commissioner Gomez, let me just ask you what you even know about all of this from your position. What do you even know about how all this happened? Brendan Carr going on that podcast. What can you tell us?
Yeah, well, I know probably as much, if not less, than what you do. I understand that there was a podcast, and there was the opinion that broadcasters should not broadcast these types of jokes. Which, let me just say this. An inexcusable act of political violence by one disturbed individual must never be exploited as justification for broader censorship or control. And what you're seeing here is this administration is increasingly using the weight of government power to suppress lawful expression, not because it glorifies violence or breaks the law, but because it challenges those in power and reflects views they oppose.
All right, so Anna, let me just try to break this down a little bit, because you're sitting here obviously as somebody who, you're a commissioner of the FCC, right? You work with Brendan Carr. So he goes out on this podcast, okay? And he says something very specific. I'm just going to play again the explicit threat that was made. Here he is.
They have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. But frankly, when we see stuff like this, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct and take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
The easy way or the hard way, right? That's.
Folks, have some breaking news here. Nexstar, as of 2021, was considered a right-wing organization. Take a look at this right here. Nexstar Media Group publicly presents itself as providing unbiased, fact-based journalism, particularly through its national cable news network, News Nation. However, these claims have been met with criticism, especially surrounding the network's 2021 launch, which led to high-profile staff departures over concerns of a rightward shift in coverage. And so, concerns over conservative shift regarding News Nation are here. Then the hiring of former Trump aides. Listen to this right here, all right? Take a look at this. Nexstar has several former Trump aides working for it. Take a look, all right? The controversy was amplified by the disclosure that former Fox News executive and Trump administration Deputy Chief of Staff Bill Shine was brought on as a consultant during the network's launch. Soft interview with Trump and leadership's political connections. A Nexstar network executive involved in the News Nation launch, Sean Compton, had previous business ties to Donald Trump, having worked on a radio show with him in 2004. And then political donations. In 2018, reports surfaced that Nexstar had contributed hundreds of thousands of dollars in Republican political committees. Records from Open Secrets show that in 2020, 68%, as it reads here, of Nexstar's political contributions went to candidates, with the rest going to party and other committees. And so there have been arguments against, they say there's claims of centrist reporting. Nexstar News Nation leadership have repeatedly insisted their goal is to provide down-the-middle, fact-based coverage, third-party ratings at the time. Well, it goes on. This is a long list of it, okay? So just showing you what's been said about Nexstar. Now we'll go back to this discussion on CNN here, right here. Excuse me.
Obviously, there's no even attempt at ambiguity here, right? It's just a blatant, bald, direct threat. What do you say to that? What do you say to Brendan Carr? He's your colleague. You guys are on the FCC together. You work with him. He went out and said this.
So I think we really need to make very clear that the First Amendment does not allow us, the FCC, to tell broadcasters what they can broadcast. Personally, I'd rather not speak ill of the dead, but I understand Jimmy Kimmel is a satirist and a comedian. I saw the clip. He did not make any unfounded claims, but he did make a joke, one that others may even find crude. But that is neither illegal nor grounds for companies to capitulate to this administration in ways that violate the First Amendment. we must be careful not to allow the government to punish critics simply because of content. This sets a dangerous new precedent, and companies must stand firm against any efforts to trade away First Amendment freedoms.
So Anna, when Brandon Carr goes out and said the FCC, that we can do this the easy way or the hard way, and talks about revoking broadcast licenses. Okay, for people out there who don't understand the machinations of the FCC and exactly how it works, if ABC had not caved and had kept Jimmy Kimmel on the air, and Brendan Carr went ahead and actually went forward to do this, to try to revoke a broadcast license for ABC, goes to the FCC, you're a sitting member, you are there.
Hold on. Yeah. Hey, I'm the black guy on the channel. Go ahead.
There are others. What actually would happen?
So the FCC does not have the ability to revoke licenses just because we don't like what is being said on a particular broadcast, especially by a satirist like Jimmy Kimmel. So I don't think this commission could have legally revoked a license based on this particular episode. What we keep hearing by this administration is that broadcasters have to serve the public interest. And it's undefined what we mean by the public interest. It is true that we have a public interest obligation to serve communities.
Hey, thank you for the subscription.
It doesn't mean that anything we don't like is against the public interest. And what I think we need to do as a commission is we need to issue a rulemaking where we say, here is specifically what we mean by serving the public interest. Because just saying it's against the public interest because we don't like particular content is not enough. And it's very important to know. We don't have, I'm sorry, we don't have an exception to the, no, I was gonna say, we don't have an exception to the First Amendment for broadcast licensees. They are still protected by our First Amendment, and free expression is non-negotiable. It marks the line between freedom and oppression, and we must defend it without compromise.
So, Anne, I just wanted to ask you about Brendan Carr here, but Brian Stelter, my colleague, he was just on a moment ago. I don't know if you heard him, but talking about this news, actually asked Brendan Carr for comment on these developments. And Brendan Carr responded to Brian Stelter. I'll show you what he did. He sent him back a meme from the TV show The Office of the show character celebrating. Okay, so that just came from the commissioner of the FCC, Brendan Carr. A meme, I don't know if you can see it, Anna. That's his response to this.
Oh, boy. Wow.
I don't think we should be celebrating violating our First Amendment rights and
celebrating
our democracy.
So, Anna, what can you do about it? Again, to try to explain to us what happens in the FCC. Brendan Carr has made it clear where he stands. He put out a threat. He got an outcome that he now puts out a meme from The Office celebrating. And he's not going anywhere. What do you do about it?
So what I am doing is I am doing whatever I can to use my position to call attention to this administration's campaign of censorship and control. It is what I can do. I can use my platform to tell people that we need to protect our democracy and freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of association. All of that is there for a reason, and it is an important foundation for our democracy, and we must speak up and push back.
All right, Anna, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Anna Gomez, as I said, is a sitting current commissioner of the FCC, along with Brendan Carr. All right, next, our breaking news coverage is going to continue on this breaking news. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer will be with me to talk about this breaking news of ABC deciding to pull Jimmy Kimmel off the air after the FCC threatened about comments Kimmel made on Charlie Kirk. Plus, the sheriff who was key to getting Charlie Kirk's alleged killer to surrender is revealing new details about how it happened, including that Tyler Robinson was in the woods and suicidal, and that sheriff will be out front.
For 1 week, Have I Got News for You is moving to Sunday.
It's like daylight savings, but instead of moving forward an hour.
Hey, so while the commercial's on, I'm going to read some of your comments on here. They are as follows. So, all right, I'm out. He says, I have a long term memory. I didn't see this outcry when it came. People wanting to get, with pride, getting persecuted. You're all wild as blank. People with guns didn't do their jobs. I voted for Kamala last election. Sorry to say I agree with this. It was a long time coming for Jimmy Kimmel. Satire is awesome, but poor satire gets fired. Sending in ice for Guillermo next. Marketing course says, goodbye, Felicia. Don't let the door hit you. I said, thanks for the comments. Bob Schultz is shocked. First Colbert, now. Yep, Kimmel, who's next. Yeah, it is shocking. First Colbert, now Jimmy. We are on a roll. And then Sir Smokes a Lot says, freedom isn't free, buddy. That's the term of the night. Freedom isn't free, buddy. Sir Smoke, see ya in the streets. I'll assume that's a threat. What? No threats here, folks. Hey, folks. Folks, big disclaimer. No arguments, no threats, no that here. We don't need all that. We're one miracle. Hey, some of you are from other parts of the world, too. I say welcome. A sad day in American history. I'm marking the day, and it is accountability. It is also a shocking rebuke to a type of free speech that has been ignited by what we used to call new media, and now we call social media. This is as much an incredible development as VloggerCon in 2006 was in itself, when we had people, a number of people at VloggerCon were video bloggers. The first vlogger convention in the West Coast I was at, the first VloggerCon was in New York. But my point is that we're talking about the immediacy of the ability to share an idea of voice over IP, TV over IP. IP is the internet protocol, right? Okay. And now we're at this point where we really do have to, you said it, be accountable for what you say, because people are triggered by it. There's that word again, all right? And it says, now we're hunting for, subscribe, and says subscribe to set up a cheap camera and free software to set up comments. It's a good idea. This should spark a different kind of new media revolution among people out there who already have media companies like myself. Zinni62 Media needs investors. We really welcome you. And also, if you have a problem with reputation management, please subscribe to Zinni62 Media, Zinni62 on YouTube, but also visit our website, Zinni62Media.com, and right here. And so we right here, as you can see, excuse me, Zinni62 Media, whoops, right here. And I don't know why this is not enlarging out, but it's not. So at any rate, that's the website. And there are commercials on, which we'll get back. Once the commercial's over, we'll get back to the broadcast. But let us tell your story. We do online reputation management. And so if you have anybody out there you know of who needs help or needs our services, please send them to us. You will get 15% of the retainer they pay if they become a client. We welcome your responses, your suggestions, your if you want to vlog with us, please send me an email at zinni@zinni62media.net. We welcome you as well. We are a C Corp, a Delaware C Corp too. I'm saying all this because we've got commercials here on CNN. We haven't gotten back to the broadcast, and they're long commercials. And now we're getting back to it, folks. So here it is. Here's Aaron Burnett.
That is that Jimmy Kimmel's late night talk show has been pulled off the air indefinitely. And the context of this, of course, is everything. It came hours after the Trump-aligned chairman of the FCC threatened to take action against ABC and its parent company, Disney, over these comments by Kimmel 2 nights ago about the motive of the Charlie Kirk shooter.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
And then Brennan Carr went on that right-wing podcast and said that Jimmy Kimmel is a problem and that they could do this the easy way or the hard way. And then within hours, Jimmy Kimmel put on indefinite leave by ABC. Out front now is Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. Senator Schumer, your reaction to this?
It is outrageous. It's a page right out of Xi's playbook. This is just despicable, disgusting, and against democratic values. Trump and his allies seem to want to shut down speech that they don't like to hear. That is not what democracies do. That is what autocracies do. And it doesn't matter whether you agree with Kimmel or not. He has the right to free speech.
Yep.
And so it is just
He does.
outrageous. It is indicative of autocracy, and I am just outraged by it. Again, this is what dictators do. This is what Xi would do. This is what Putin would do. We are not that country.
Well, I want to read to you, Senator, what President Trump's son, Don Jr., just posted. He just posted an IL quote. I'll read it to you. They're not losing their jobs to cancel culture. They're losing them to consequence culture. Consequences and accountability are something Democrats haven't had to face in a long time. What's your response to that?
He has no understanding of what free speech is all about. It's not whether you agree or disagree with what the person said. They have a right to say it. They have a right to say it on ABC. They have a right to say it in newspapers. They have a right to say it to their friends and families. And this puts this country in a road that could go to autocracy if this keeps going. What democracies have been known for, what our founding fathers and our country has been proudest of, is we are a bastion of free speech. And they're trying to shut it down simply because they don't like what the person said. That is outrageous.
It also, and as I've been clear throughout the program to say, what he said should not necessarily be the point. But what he said was to speculate about what side of the political spectrum the shooter came from, right? It was not something to celebrate the killing in any way. Actually, when the horrible assassination happened, he came out and spoke about it. So, Senator, what can you do about it? I know you probably just plugged in, but I was talking to Anna Gomez, who's also a current commissioner at the FCC. Brendan Carr, of course, is the chairman, and was asking her what could be done, even within the FCC itself. And she said, well, that she would come out and she would speak out for freedom of speech, for the First Amendment. That's what she would do, right? So it just raises the question to me about what really can be done. Is there anything explicit and specific that can be done, Senator?
The bottom line is this, that first, when things like this happen, everybody from all sides ought to speak out against it. We ought to have conservative Republicans speak out against it. But second, the courts have always defended free speech. Let's see if they step up to the plate, because I'm sure there'll be lawsuits about this, and there ought to be right away.
Oh, tons.
Well, it comes in the context of the political division in this country, Senator, as you know, at a crisis level. And we're facing another possible government shutdown, which in all of this gets buried under it, but is at the heart of this divide. Democrats and Republicans dug in. One Democratic Senator, John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, came out and specifically said in this moment, after Charlie Kirk's assassination, he is going to buck your party, Senator. He's going to support the GOP funding bill. And I wanted to play exactly what he said.
I would never, ever hold the government openly as a hostage, saying if you don't do this, then I refuse to keep our government open. And that's look. I mean, we were just talking about what happened to Kirk. So our country's not right now where we need more of that kinds of chaos to shut the entire government down.
Look, the bottom line is very simple, Aaron. For weeks and months, we have been saying to our Republican colleagues, simply sit down and talk to us and negotiate with us. That's how these budget bills have always been done. And we didn't understand. We've been asking since late July, Thune, Johnson, sit down with us. We have a different view of what should be funded than you do. But the bottom line is, we didn't understand that until last week, when Trump came out and said, don't negotiate with Democrats, don't include Democrats, we don't need them. Well, Trump either doesn't know how to count or doesn't understand the Senate, because you need 60 votes, they have 53. We Democrats have now put out our proposal. Their proposal is status quo. The Americans are not happy. American people are not happy with that status quo. And what our bill says is control rising costs, which American people hate, fix health care, which the Republican big beautiful bill decimated, And the American people, I believe, will side with us because we are on their side. The Republican bill is not. But at the very minimum, negotiate. How can you put out a bill with no Democratic input and say that's that? Well, we're not saying that's that. And the bottom line is very simple. Donald Trump, aided and abetted by Thune and Johnson, are putting us on the road to a shutdown because they won't even sit down and talk with us.
Senator Schumer, thank you very much. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
Folks, I'm going to pause this just for a second because there's a huge misunderstanding about what happened. Disney does not own Nexstar. Disney does not own the stations that agreed or under Nexstar's umbrella, if you will, ownership umbrella, that said they would take Jimmy Kimmel Live away from 220 million eyeballs, including yours and mine. Disney produces the show, but then they rely on the decision by Nexstar to show it through their affiliates, and that's how Disney gets paid. That's the difference. But Disney, basically, this isn't Disney's thing to do. Okay, it is Nexstar's decision, and that has to be understood here. Also, there will be lawsuits. There will be tremendous lawsuits because they're costing people a tremendous lot amount of money. There's a lot of illegal actions going on here. And what President Trump is doing is he's testing the limits of government power from his place in order to exact control over what is said about him and what he's trying to accomplish. And this is a big part of that, okay? So it has nothing, again, none of this has anything to do with any economic changes. It has anything to do with an election. This is all the president's creation, including the tariff issue. A lot of these are manufactured, all right? And so you have to be aware of that and not think, hey, we're in trouble, all these things are happening, it means that something happened to the world. No. This is Donald Trump literally playing with the levers of power to see how far he can go with them. So it's a lesson in America and history that's very important to pay attention to and talk about. All right, so I want to say that. And also, right now, so let me go back here and go back and focus on Aaron right here. And thank you very much for the viewing. All right, and there we go. Right there, okay? Here.
I want to go now to Andrew Yang and David Frum, both with us in an important moment, Andrew. This is an important moment. And, there are times when, you feel things are changing and there are things to be concerned about. And then there are times when you are faced with a hard reality. And this is that moment.
I was on Jimmy Kimmel's show during the 2020 presidential cycle. I have very fond memories. We compared notes about playing Ted Cruz in basketball. It was that kind of atmosphere. And now seeing him potentially come off the air in this fashion, it's really jarring, to say the least. I will say, though, that from some of the earlier commentators characterizing him on one hand as a news personality, which I don't think Jimmy was. I mean, Jimmy was
so he's an entertainer, he's a satirist, he's a comedian.
Yes. And he clearly has a political point of view and well-known hostility.
Pretty wild,
with
huh,
this administration. But my
pretty
sense
wild.
of events was that there was an owner of ABC affiliates, Nexstar, who said, look, we're going to preempt this show. That's right. And then ABC had a choice and say, okay, are we going to get in a food fight with some of our own affiliates and say we're going to stand by this host, or are we going to capitulate? And they chose to capitulate. But I see this as a commercial decision. And there's a distinction between saying, look, First Amendment right news organization, which this was not, in my opinion. This was an entertainer on a major platform, and the corporation said, look, this is not worth fighting the administration or our own affiliates.
Which is a pretty incredible thing to say, David Frum, because as Elizabeth Wagmeister, who's been breaking so much of this, was pointing out, Jimmy Kimmel is the entertainment face of ABC, right? It's not just he's Jimmy Kimmel.
There's only one thing that matters. There's only one thing that matters. We had a threat of retaliation by a government official for someone not pronouncing government-commanded speech. There was an order from the state about what people must say. Jimmy Kimmel did not say that, and his corporation was threatened with consequences by a government official. This is not cancel culture because it's not culture. It's state repression. It's an order from the government. Here's the script you must read. If you do not read it, you will be taken off the air. Jimmy Kimmel didn't read it. He was taken off the air. This cannot be, because he's a comedian, there'll be people who say maybe we shouldn't take this as seriously, but here's the comparison I would suggest. When Paul Pelosi was brutally attacked, many, unfortunately, including the son of the former President Trump, made light of it. A terrible thing, heartbreaking, a terrible attack on an 82-year-old man. Imagine if the Biden administration had given a script and said, this is what everybody must say about Paul Pelosi. And if you don't say it, we will bring pressure to bear on your parent corporation to fire you. Greg Gutfeld at Fox, you're not sad enough about Paul Pelosi. You're not saying what we command to be said about Paul Pelosi. Therefore, unless Fox fires you, we are going to bring regulatory havoc to bear on the parent corporation. That is what is going on here. It could not be more serious, and no one should be at this moment saying, well, it's about business. It's not about business. It's about the state repressing speech where people don't say what the state commands to be said.
All right, both of you, please stay with me. We're going to take a break, but you're going to be with me on the other side as our breaking news coverage continues. We are just getting in here some new details about what is next for Jimmy Kimmel after his show is put on hold indefinitely. So we will come back with you with this news we're just getting here.
Hey, this just in. Have I got news for you?
Okay, folks, we got a bunch of commercials, so I'm going to go over to Twitter and see what the other news is being is put out on this, and see what people are saying regarding Jimmy Kimmel and this action. And let me show you what I'm doing here. Okay, right there. I just typed in Jimmy Kimmel live trending, Jimmy John, Jimmy home. What? Okay. Oh, so let's go to this trending, and then go over here and see what's going on, and then scroll down. You know the news: ABC suspends Jimmy Kimmel show over false MAGA link Kirk, and it's really Nexstar that did it. But at any rate, Jennifer, co-founder, says big mistake. Jimmy Kimmel monologue below. Jimmy Kimmel canceled. What do you think? And this goes on here. And then we have Mario Nawfal says Jimmy Kimmel pulled from air in 32 ABC markets after comments on Charlie Kirk. Nexstar Media Group will remove him in live from 32 stations, preempting the shows indefinitely after Jimmy Kimmel's remarks on Charlie Kirk's assassination. Nexstar owns or operates 200 plus stations, 216 actually, after across 116 U.S. markets, meaning Kimmel is now blacked out in major cities like Nashville, Salt Lake City, New Orleans, Richmond, Knoxville, Albany, Syracuse, and Harrisburg. Nexstar, you know this, all right? And let's see here. Brian Allen says breaking: ABC has pulled Jimmy Kimmel live off the air indefinitely after his Charlie Kirk remarks. Trump's FCC chair went on Benny Johnson's MAGA show and threatened to revoke ABC and Disney's licenses if they didn't act. This isn't accountability. It's, government ordered. I don't want to use the word because it's a touch point word, so I'm not going to use it. Jimmy Kimmel Live has been pulled indefinitely because of, you've seen all this. Let's see the latest. You know this. Let's see the latest. The latest here is Goldsmith. Jimmy Kimmel's cancellation is no more about free speech than was Colbert's show being canceled anymore. It was about free speech when Firefly was canceled after one season all those years ago. It's simply about dollars and cents. No, that's not true. It's got nothing to do with that. It's not live by the market, die by the market. That's fake news. That's fake news. And so we know this one. ABC takes Jimmy Kimmel off the air indefinitely after host comments about Charlie Kirk. Basically the same information. Did the media find their backbone? It says here, Mediaite, while we are confirming that the cowards at ABC News cannot be watched, so we are blocking ABC now. Goodbye, as Alexander says. Marty McFly and Doc Bolin visit Jimmy Kimmel Live. That was a classic show. So anyway, you see what's happening here in terms of the reporting. It's a sad day in America that this occurred, but it's also going to push people more online to non-appointment television than ever before. And I think Nexstar will regret the action because ABC, Jimmy Kimmel was appointment television for so many people. He commands a following that will go wherever those folks, including me, will go wherever he is at. And so can you imagine Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert together on a program on Netflix? It could happen. But this action will destroy traditional media as we know it. This action will destroy traditional media as we know it because not many people watch cable TV anymore. No, they're going to go wherever Jimmy goes. And ultimately, Trump, he might think he won. Hold on a second. Let me go back to this right here. This is what Aaron's got to say.
Jimmy Kimmel's late night show off the air indefinitely. Its rapid response account on Truth Social posting, and I quote, "They're doing their viewers a favor. Jimmy is a sick freak." That's from the White House rapid response team. Ryan Goodman is our out front legal analyst. He's now with me. Andrew Yang and David Frum are also still here. So, Ryan, when you now have had a few minutes here to digest this, to think about the implications, to think about what can be done, what happens here?
So, ABC News has a very strong legal claim if they were to try to find some way to sue. This is a clear First Amendment violation. It's interesting to note that just last year, the Supreme Court decided a case in which the attorney generals of Missouri and Louisiana, very conservative attorney generals, tried to bring to the Supreme Court the idea that the Biden White House was pressuring social media companies as to what content they could produce in terms of the White House saying, can you please stop doing disinformation or misinformation around COVID? And the key for them was that they had to prove government coercion, and they couldn't because there was no statement really coming out of the Biden White House saying, if you don't do it, we'll do X. This is a clear statement of coercion. So the law would look at this very
You're referring to Biden Carr saying easy way or the hard way.
Absolutely. That's one of the most coercive statements possible. It would be a golden piece of evidence for plaintiffs that would want to bring that kind of a case. I would think they would lose 7-2 or 9-0. The Trump administration, Brendan Carr, before the U.S. Supreme Court. It's just such an obvious violation of the First Amendment. And just to think about it, I mean, that's very conservative attorney generals bringing that case before the Supreme Court. They didn't have that kind of evidence. And we're talking about an atmosphere in which the FCC is supposed to be independent of the president. But just within the last 24 hours, it's notable that President Trump said to ABC's Jonathan Karl, quote, "I'd probably go after people like you. Maybe I'll come after ABC." That seems like a concerted campaign in which Mr. Carr is in lockstep with the president.
Yeah, right. And that comment was obviously specifically about ABC. So, David, when you see the response from the White House, right? They say Jimmy, I don't have the quote in front of me right this very second, but I believe everyone writes that Jimmy's a sick freak, doing viewers a favor, or something along that. There it is. They're doing their viewers a favor. Jimmy's a sick freak. That comes from the White House, David, from the White House of the United States of America Rapid Response Team. Brendan Carr's response to our Brian Stelter when he asked him about all of this was to send a meme of the Office TV show where everybody's celebrating. So that's the manner in which this is being handled.
We don't have to speculate about what comes next because President Trump in his televised speech after the assassination of Charlie Kirk and his aide Stephen Miller have already told us what is coming next.
Yep.
And they previewed it back in April. What is coming next is a crackdown on Democratic Party fundraising. That President Trump said we are going to go after those who raise funds for causes we don't like. Stephen Miller said that even more emphatically. In April of this past year, Donald Trump, at his personal command, ordered his Department of Justice, an astonishing thing for a president to do, to investigate the Democratic Party's small dollar donation platform, ActBlue. The attack on Democratic Party fundraising is coming next. The suppression of Democratic Party speech is coming next. Look, Donald Trump has maliciously attacked the standards of living of ordinary Americans with his tariffs. He's enormously corrupt. He's taking billions of dollars in meme coins and other kind of crypto coins. He cannot afford a free and fair election in 2026. And what he thinks about every moment of the day is, how do I head off a free and fair election in 2026? And what is happening now is part of a hastily developed strategy to seize this opportunity created by this terrible tragedy, afflicting a family, afflicting many people who admired him, to make political competition in the United States unfree and unfair.
And it is clear, Andrew Yang, that from what Ryan just laid out, that, Trump said what he said about ABC the other day. Brendan Carr said what he said. Their responses are to celebrate. But Trump also actually spoke out about Jimmy Kimmel. After Colbert show went away, he chose to speak about Kimmel. He said this.
Kimmel has no talent. They're next. They're going to be going. I hear they're going to be going.
They're next. Again, there's no ambiguity.
I've always seen Trump as an accelerant to the disintegration of various institutions, and Jimmy Kimmel's an institution. Everything kind of exists in rivalry with Trump, particularly if it commands a big audience and attention. And unfortunately, he has had it out for Jimmy. It's a sad day that we've gotten to this juncture, but unfortunately, I agree with David that in many ways this is predictable.
Well, and I think that's the sad thing. In a sense, I guess all of you.
I'm going to freeze this one. This is then. I have some other matters to take care of related to this and writing media, but I want to say this. CNN does an excellent job of trying to be middle of the road. I do not watch Fox News because it's anti-intellectual. MSNBC is okay, but it has a tendency to present a view that I don't believe is completely intellectually fleshed out, all right? I'm my own media organization. This is it. This is NE62 Media. And you can present your view as a vlogger. Come and join us. State your case. We've had that before. We'll have it again. I've been around now since we established in 2010, and we incorporated as a C Corp in 2019. So now we have an ability to grow and do great things, and we focus on reputation management for clients as well as reporting the news. But the simple fact of the matter is that news must always be presented in a way that challenges your intellect and asks you to think, not to insult you or make you feel bad about who you are as a person or your sexual orientation or anything like that. That's ridiculous. That's hurtful. And it's the kind of speech for which your parents would wash your mouth out with soap for, okay? So I don't do that here at all. If you're looking for that, hey, I don't want you to go someplace else. I prefer you to subscribe right here and learn to be a better person that thinks before they act, okay? And loves people and loves your Lord or Allah or whatever, whoever you preach to. I'm not here to judge. I love this technology and I appreciate the fact that you all are here, and I want to thank you so much. And hey, thumbs up, by the way. And you're right, Canadian. What's wrong is wrong and should be fair on all. Absolutely. 100% agree with you. But right now, I have to get out news about the Oakland oversized terminal, and also I've got to eat. Please subscribe to ZA62. I'll be back later tonight. Not long after I finished eating and getting all the information out. And also learning the truth about, hey, Argent Materials, great Oakland organization, great organization in the community. All right, see you all later, and thank you for watching. And please subscribe to ZA62 and join our membership program. And if you have any comments, please, Zenny at Zenny62.com, Zenny at Zenny62media.com or .net. Reach out. Don't be shy. We'll see you. Thank you.